When you go to college, like you could ask the Department of Engineering, Department of Finance, Department of Accounting, who are the 60 or 100 or 50 employers that come and recruit there annually. And so the three internships that I got, I would say all three of them were one way or the other through the campus.
You're listening to East Meets West Pakistani Professional Journeys podcast. Welcome to the East Meets West Pakistani Professional Journeys podcast. Today we're joined with Wali Rizvi, accomplished CPA with a notable journey spanning key firms. Wali's currently working at PwC as a deal senior manager based out of Chicago and dedicated over 4 years in the deal division. Before PwC, Wali contributed at KPMG US, exploring AI-based audit tools. We could start off by just talking about the transition from Pakistan to UAE, and then how was your experience in UAE?
The major difference between Pakistan and UAE as a kid was there isn't a lot of opportunities to play and have fun in UAE as a little kid. Whereas no matter where you are in Pakistan, as a kid, there's always something happening. So that was, I guess, the biggest shock going from Pakistan to UAE, where you had to, as a kid, you had to find friends and all those things. Other than that, I think the education system is similar in UAE to Pakistan, where there are multiple options of secondary schooling. There are different curriculums. The schools are expensive, just like they're in Pakistan. So those challenges to go through your primary schooling are very similar.
In terms of your transition from UAE to the US, how was that like?
The process was my family basically immigrated to suburbs of Chicago, Illinois in 2009. And I was done with my high school in British curriculum. So I was done with my O-levels and A-levels, and I went to college in Illinois. The transition was difficult, of course, because of the climate. You've got extreme cold and extreme hot. The positive shock was that, relatively speaking, education is much more accessible and easier. If you want to go through college or university, there are difficulties, but you can overcome those. And if you come from a humble background in the United States, right, you can overcome that, and there are opportunities and avenues for that. Whereas in Dubai, you're at a dead end. If you're born in the wrong household, there's just nothing you can do about it. Your destiny comes with you, and there's very little you can do with your destiny, right? It's unfortunate, but that's what the truth is. There's no two ways about it. And so I saw a lot of people when I was in college coming from different backgrounds, kids who were raised in foster homes, people who had basically escaped war zones, people who were sometime undocumented immigrants. But one thing that's common in the United States is that if you want to pursue education, there are ways and means to pursue it, which was very shocking, because when you're in Pakistan or in Dubai, right, like one of the main concerns that your parents have is like, how are you going to get your education done? Because it is expensive. It is incredibly competitive and very hard for a family in middle class to have their sons and daughters pursue higher education. Overall, going to college here was not significantly difficult or different than, I would say, had I gone to a college in the UAE. From my O-levels, was interested in something business related. I did not know what, but then when I got here, I was able to basically narrow it from the entire business, from business school to economics, accounting, and finance, and then from those three, look at finance. When I was going into college, we were at the height of recession. Economics and finance.
Oh, doesn't, right?
Yeah, so economics and finance majors had no jobs. Accounting majors had jobs, and that's all that was relevant at that point. It was a very different era and a very heartbreaking one, where you would see a lot of people lose their jobs and basically struggle to make ends meet. So that's how I ended up choosing accounting.
Got you. And did you do any internships during your university years or in the summer, or was it like straight you got the full-time job?
Yeah, I think I did one. Technically speaking, I did 3 internships. It was 3 because that also encompasses my grad school year. Because here in America, you have to have 150 hours to be eligible for CPA. That mostly results in people having to go to grad school.
Yep.
So I did 3. and obviously did other accounting related jobs during my college as well, did a lot of other jobs during my college days. But in terms of opportunities that meet the definition of an internship, there were three of those.
Okay. And was it easy? I think so. Nowadays, a lot of students, they find it hard to get internships, especially when they don't have that experience, especially in first year. Like, how did you go about, or do you remember how you went about getting that, at least the first door?
Yeah, finding an internship by yourself could be. In fact, I
Yeah.
remember in 2012, I interviewed for 8 or 9 internships, most of them unpaid, and I got
Oh,
rejected
wow.
for all
Okay.
of them. And the reason for that was in 2012 I was still a sophomore, so I was going through myself. I was not going through the university. One of the key factors when you evaluate a university is the employers who recruit there. That is going to have a significant impact on the type of opportunities that you're going to get. This factor is often overlooked when we're talking about different schools and evaluating different schools. And I think the tendency in South Asian
Yeah.
community is to just look at things from an academic perspective and not really think about, okay, what is this going to get me to? So one of the things when you evaluate, when you go to college, is like you could ask the Department of Engineering, Department of Finance, Department of Accounting, who are the 60 or 100 or 50 employers that come and recruit there annually. And so the three internships that I got, I would say all three of them were one way or the other through the campus. Some were directly
Okay.
through the Department of Accountancy, some were through a broader career fair, but they were one way or the other, as I recall, through the university.
Do you recall the process of getting a CPA? I'm assuming it's quite different from Canada.
You
Right.
go through your undergrad, right? Average person is going to graduate undergrad at 120 hour, 123, 24. I graduated at 123. Okay, so now you need to keep taking classes, right? So the moment you hit 130 at 139, you register for your next semester. And basically, you send your classes to AICPA or NASBA and say, look, I am signed up for these additional 12, and by the end of the semester, I'm going to be eligible 150. Give me provisional approval to sit. So then you sit for CPA. And then you start taking
Okay.
one exam, two exams, and there are 4 exams that you have to pass. And all 4 of them are very academic in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because in Canada, it's like capstone one, capstone two, and then there's like a C fee at the very end, the final examination. And capstone one and two, capstone one is like a presentation.
Oh,
And then capstone two is basically, it's a case and you just do a submission.
and how
That's
many
how it's done.
exams do you have?
So normally in the university you can fast track it. So there's like a bunch of electives and
Oh,
cores that you should like take. I'm not sure about the examination for that, but some universities they offer a fast track route that takes you directly to
I
capstone
see.
one.
So this is significantly different from the United States.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking because I know it is quite different in the US and in terms of the structure and everything. Yeah, that's my
Um,
understanding at least.
a
So
lot of I have seen a lot of people who misjudge the CPA process. People basically not take the classes that they should have taken in school. So that's one point. The
yeah,
other thing that people I think
yep,
have people have significantly hurted themselves by either saying that, oh, I don't want to sit for the exam right now, I'm going to wait 2 years and then I'm going to sit.
yeah,
Uh, the other mistake is, oh, I'm not going to need it. I'm going to actually transition to finance or I'm going to transition to something else and I'm not going to need it. Very unfortunately, I have friends who've been in the profession for 10 years, 8 years, and they're trying to get through it because they made one of these two mistakes.
it's a very interesting point you brought up. The fact that you really need to, because you're in the groove, right? Once you start studying and you're in it, and you get out, and then getting back in is it's a different mindset altogether. So that's a very good point.
Yes, yes, you're in the zone. Might as well just take it and be done with it.
Get it done. Yeah. So I guess once you graduated from university, what was the process like in finding a full time role? Was it easier because you had the internships, or
When you choose accounting, right, it is incredibly important you choose the right school. When you choose the right school, it is incredibly important that you play all your cards properly by the time you're sophomore or junior. If you're waiting for senior year, it's probably too late because the way recruiting works for Big Four or all accounting firms for that matter is they basically come and target students when they're sophomores. So for myself, like I had an internship with KPMG I think I got the internship at the end of my junior year. Then I did the internship, and at the end of the internship, I had the offer. So after having that offer, I came back to college, completed my 150 hours, and did what I had to do to get through. Way before you graduate, you should have a full time offer. And it's not like it's incredibly hard to get it. It's just that when you're choosing your school, you have to be diligent about it.
Got you. In terms of your experience at KPMG, how did you find it in terms of the process?
I was the class of 2015, where you go in and you basically, you're a first year audit associate and you don't know what the hell you're doing, right, in your first year. So,
Yeah.
like everybody, I went through that as well. And slowly but surely, you learn the audit business, you learn the audit process, and so on and so forth. It is an incredibly difficult job. You get to learn a lot. There is a thrill to it, as in my audit career, I have dealt with fraud. I have dealt with material weaknesses or all sorts of system problems and system issues. The job has a little bit of a thrill to it, but it does come with a very heavy price of time and effort that you have to put in the beginning years.
Yeah.
It was fun, but it was very difficult. At times, it used to get boring. It was very demanding, but there was definitely a thrill to it.
Got you. Were you involved with the AI based tools
Yes.
in KPMG or was that
No, that
PwC?
wasn't at KPMG. Basically, I was still part of the audit practice, but for 1 year, I
Okay.
worked on the AI tools that the practice was developing at that point. So this was basically early days, relatively early days of artificial intelligence. And when I was an associate, basically the firm was trying to collect use cases that involve the use of artificial intelligence in auditing. So I submitted a use case to basically use artificial intelligence to read certain contracts that we would normally read as part of an audit. That use case got some funding. And once it got some funding, I got the opportunity to do a rotation and go help build that use case for that 1 year. So at a very young and early age, I got to see top leadership at KPMG and very high level decisions being made at KPMG's national office. And it was right after that rotation that I left KPMG and left the audit practice.
And then right after that, you moved into deals, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken, right? What did you find the main difference between the two?
So the deals business is very different compared to the audit business. In audit, you know that you will be busy on between X and Y dates. In the deals
Yep.
business, you have no idea how busy you're going to be at a certain time. You can get a call on Friday afternoon that, hey, you have to be in San Francisco on Monday morning. You name it. It's very volatile, the deals business. It is overall, I would say, in terms of the number of hours that you work, it's probably less than audit, but there's no predictability, which makes it difficult. There's also like more so a business aspect to deals. In deals, like you're not going to get the work unless you go and ask for it. Like you have to, even as a senior associate, you have to market yourself. You have to basically make yourself known for one thing or the other, so that people come to you and ask a question, or people bring their projects to you. So you have to do that in deals at a very early age, at a very early part of your career, to make sure that you market yourself within the firm so that people are coming and bringing you work, bringing you questions, and see you as a resource and see you as someone who could help them either win projects or deliver projects.
Got you. And in a general sense, without saying getting any specifics, what would your role or junior roles, if they're interested, involve generally?
Basically, what deals is that if a company wants to do a merger or an acquisition or basically sell a part of the company, or if they want to go public, there
Yep.
are all sorts of needs that they have to be fulfilled in those environments. If you are within deals, there are about 12 different things you could do. And I
Oh, well.
will name, just so if a student is watching this, I'll name some of them of these, right?
Yep.
You could do financial due diligence, which basically means you're going to check the target company's financials and see if they're okay or not. You could do commercial due diligence. You're going to check the target company's technology and operations to make sure it is what they're representing it to be. You could do merger M&A tax. You could do what we call post deal integration of systems. You could do deal strategy, which is upfront strategy work. You could do valuation work. You could do capital markets and accounting advisory, which I'll explain. You could do that. You could do like HR transaction services because you have all of these when two companies merge or they get separated. There are pension plans and all of those things. So these are like 8 or 9 that I just listed. There are others as well that you could do. So there is within deals there are a bunch of competencies, right? So what do I do? So I basically help companies who are either acquiring other companies, or if they're going through an IPO, or if they're entered into a really complex transaction arrangement. In all of those scenarios, I help those companies basically get through the US GAAP requirements and the SEC requirements.
Got you. And is there a split between, I'm not sure if you have any involvement with like investment bankers, or is that just like completely separate?
So when you are working on an IPO, you basically
IPO.
work with investment bankers directly because they are advising our client
Okay.
on how to basically put together their equity story and basically helping them with valuation of the firm, of the company.
Yeah.
Whereas what we're helping with is we're basically helping the company meet accounting and reporting requirements.
Sounds good. No, that covers quite a bit in terms of just the various areas in deals. In terms of someone who actually wants to break into this field, what are your thoughts on how they can go about it, either as a student and as well as a senior
Definitely.
professional or whatnot?
As a student, as I said, you have to be incredibly diligent in choosing your school, and then you have to get into Big Four, or you have to get into whatever would be the Big Eight or Big Ten, right? And as a student, that process happens when you're sophomore, junior, maybe senior year. As someone who's in industry, or as someone who's a professional with an accounting background, or even non-accounting background, like you don't have to have accounting background. If you want to get into deals, is that you have to want that at the right time, because timing is everything. Right now, the market is extremely slow, so there are literally no jobs out there.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what the market is doing. If you do a few right things when the market is high.
Okay. And I guess in terms of the skills that you've developed, like what do you think really stood out that has led to your success so far in reaching the level that you are currently?
You got to talk around what you don't know. You got to be able to talk through what you don't know and then learn what you don't know. That's the most important. The field that I'm in, my clients look at me as a specialist. They may come to me with a question on a given topic. You have to know a little bit so you can just talk your way, and then once you know that little bit and you've had that initial conversation, then you got to be either able to pull in the right person who knows that topic really deep, or if you cannot pull in the right person, then you have to be able to dig down and basically learn that topic in a very quick manner on your own. So I think in my field, that is a very key skill, that you have to be able to learn very quickly what you don't know.
I'm wondering, like, how do you normally just not making work fully your life?
Yes, there is a tendency to work long hours at times. The pressure that you're under, you oftentimes have to work a lot of hours. The way you get around it is basically, in our business, in the deals business, I would say naturally you're going to get an opportunity to get around it because there's going to be slow times. There's going to be fast times. So when the slow time comes, that's when you basically do everything else and life is great. And then there is the high tide where you have to basically deliver on short deadlines. So what has happened is that during summer, and our volume naturally decreases in summer. So so I've taken advantage of summer and basically whatever I have to do, get out, play golf, play cricket, whatever, all of those things. That happens a lot more, I would say, in the months of June, July, August. And then when September comes in, the firm wakes up and we basically go out for the hunt.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. But no, Wally, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was great chatting. You talked about different areas within deals. Thank you so much for your time. And it was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me.